I can't do the same open twice. So,
Yeah, that's my fault. I'm
yeah,
ruining everything this week.
yeah. Well, last week it was me. This week it's your turn. That's all good.
Yeah, I mean that's the 2.0 part of the podcast
Yes,
is like it's 2.0, but it's still a hot mess.
it sure
So,
is. Sure is. Yeah. So, welcome, Chris and Matt's Wrestling Pod 2.0. I'm Chris. That's Matt. And
ooh,
we are going to talk some AEW this week after a couple weeks talking WWE. So looking forward to that. But before we get into our conversation, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe here on the YouTube channel, musicandmoonsaults.com, or go over to your audio podcast platforms and look for Chris and Matt's Wrestling Pod and subscribe there and leave a 5-star rating and review where applicable. So, AEW. So I was kind of thinking about what exactly I want to talk about today, and there wasn't anything specific. I just kind of want to get kind of like a vibe check, I guess, this week.
yeah.
I think since the new year, I think their TV has been fantastic each week. Some really good matches. This week looks equally as good. A couple title matches. Another Bryan match where he's sure to put on a show. An MJF match actually this week. So yeah,
Well, and a good one too. It's
yeah,
it's not like when he's like, I'm gonna face Lee Moriarty or something. Like this is gonna be a banger. I would expect.
yeah, and so yeah, like I said, the TV's been excellent, but I kind of wanted to gauge where you're at. We're what, like 3 weeks away from Revolution,
Yes.
and right now there's nothing calling to me saying I need to spend my $25, whether it be at the theater or splitting the pay-per-view with you,
Right.
on the show.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think we can talk about where they're at right now without talking about the unfortunateness of All Out and the fallout. And I think it's pretty clear what happened there through everything into chaos. And it feels like just over the last few weeks they found their footing again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we're not seeing anything on paper that is super exciting about the pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
But you and I have talked about this before off air, and I think anyone that's paid attention from the start of the company, just because the pay-per-view on paper doesn't look great in the couple weeks before. I mean, give me an AEW pay-per-view that didn't deliver at least close to value, right? I'm not worried about them making a good show, but it is a little like frustrating that here we are again, and the only real match that we know of for the pay-per-view is MJF and Danielson.
Mm-hmm.
And technically that's not even official yet.
It's not official
It's
yet,
Brian.
and we're assuming we're gonna get there, and if we do, it's an Iron Man match, which I'm not particularly psyched for.
Neither am
Um,
I.
To your point, yes, every AEW pay-per-view I've seen has delivered. There's no question about that. But going into each one, there was always something, at least a match that was a hook for me. And the only one in recent memory that didn't is the one that I skipped, and that was this past Full Gear.
Yeah, same.
So that's kind of where I'm like, I'm having a hard time because obviously I wanna watch it, but I'm also, $25 is $25.
Sure. Well, and even for me, it's more of like it's the 5 or 6 hours.
Well, yeah,
I don't want. To me, the time is more valuable than even the $25 of watching. I think the Royal Rumble 2 weeks ago was a prime
yeah,
example of spent a lot of time watching these shows, and there was maybe half an hour's worth of entertainment in the show, of real entertainment. Obviously the whole show people pick and choose, but
yeah,
I think for diehards like us and the listeners or the viewers, there wasn't a ton there.
right.
it sure would be nice if they would start setting pay-per-view matches a few weeks earlier than they do. For the reason you're talking about is an Iron Man match with Danielson and MJF. I think it's a lose-lose situation. I think logically Bryan shouldn't lose this match, but they're not going to take the title off of MJF.
Right.
So whatever they do to have Danielson lose is kind of a crappy. It's probably going to be a crappy way for the world title match to end. But if there were backups out there, like, oh, we're going to give you the Young Bucks versus FTR, and obviously that's not going to happen right now. But give us a match like that to look forward to, a different story to be excited for. And I think it's pretty clear we're going to get Mox and Hangman. But we've run into this thing that.
Yeah, we probably are, but that'll be the fourth time overall and the third time since the new year, and that's like.
And that's another issue that I feel like they're running into is repeating big matchups over and over again to get to that decisive third tiebreaker or however they want to do it. You know, they had Punk and Moxley wrestle quite a bit there. You know, when Bryan first came in, he wrestled, was it Hangman? He wrestled 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, he wrestled
there pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of spreading it out a little more. Like I would have preferred the match that Mox and Hangman had on Dynamite last week be at the pay-per-view.
Right.
But oh well.
Yeah.
I don't book the cards.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so I guess let's start with the champions and just kind of see kind of try and see where they're going. And we'll start with MJF, like we said, it's looking like it's going to go with Bryan. How have you been feeling? I know, you know, you didn't really see much of the first few weeks of his reign because you were kind of taking an AEW sabbatical after All Out last year. But how have you been feeling about MJF as champion so far?
I mean, his character, he's still MJF, but MJF as champion doesn't feel any different to me. He's still the same guy, the same arrogant, grating, you know, piece of garbage. He's funny. He's still delivering great promos, but the problem is going to be with this guy going forward. If you want people to like him as a champion, in terms of like, I want to see this guy get beat, they're going to have to do stuff like have Bryan Danielson lose in an Iron Man match to make people angry. And I'm not digging that side of it. I think he's, you know, he likes to compare himself and he gets compared to Piper a lot. I think that's the actual better career path for him. I don't think he needs championships to be effective.
Yeah.
But at some point you had to get him to that level.
Yeah. It's just, it feels like if you know, if whatever the general consensus ends up happening and he ends up holding this for the better part of a year plus, they're going to have to figure out some way to inject something fresh into it, because it's a lot of the, you know, like you said, it's a lot of the same old MGF, which, I mean, to be frank, is better than, you know, a lot of other people, but still, it's, yeah, you're going to run the risk of just, you know, you're going to run the risk of, you know, Triple H circa 2003.
Right. And that's, look, they've done a really good job with that world title. It's supposed to mean something. And if this is the company where the wrestling matters more than the entertainment side of it, and your world champion is a guy that doesn't wrestle as well as the previous champions, I do think you run the risk of like turning some fans against him. But to be fair, as we've talked about, wrestling fans love to build somebody up, to tear him down. And I think that's part of the negativity that MJF is getting right now. I don't think he's the greatest champion, but the fact that people hate him is undeniable.
Yeah.
And if you want to make a real heel champion, having it go about this way is the way to do it. It's going to make people mad. But with as hot as WWE is right now and as good as WWE storytelling has been, you run the risk of turning off some of those hardcores to say, well, let me go see what they're doing. Let me pay more attention to Raw and SmackDown because I don't really like, the idea of watching MJF screw whomever out of winning the title over and over again.
Yeah, maybe. I guess it depends on what's your wrestling. Because I think you have two products right now that are doing different things at a really high level right now, and so depending on what, or even if you're, I think wrestling fans are eating good right now as far as the two major promotions go. I mean, whatever your flavor is, both of them are pretty damn good right now.
Yeah, and just to clarify what I mean by that, because obviously they're not competing on the same nights.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're someone who maybe doesn't have a buddy you can split a $50 pay-per-view with,
right,
or you're not near a movie theater that's showing it and you can pay your $25, and you're looking at the main event is a match where you're fairly certain the world title holder is just going to screw the challenger out of the title, and that's your big thing that you're interested in. Why would you shell out the $50 when you can spend $10 and watch what WWE is doing?
Yeah.
And I know it's two different styles of wrestling, but I got to give Triple H the credit. It seems like the in-ring product means a lot more than it did 7-8 months ago in WWE.
Sure.
And if you're going to be able to deliver on that side of it too, there's no doubt that WWE does spectacle better than anybody.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking of it as like if I'm the person that has to decide, do I want to pay my $50 to watch this show? And the main event you already kind of know is going to end in a screwy way with the way you don't like it. I think they run the risk of losing out on some of those dollars.
Not only do you know that the main event is going to end in a screwy way, it's going to end in a screwy way after an hour.
Right.
Which will be after like 3 other hours of wrestling. Like it's a lot.
And anyone that's paid attention knows MJF is not a ring general or a technical wizard. And for the last 15 years, Brian has been among the 2 or 3 in the conversation of the 2 or 3 absolute best technical wrestlers of all time. Not just like in the company right now or he's in that conversation. So if you're going to give us that kind of match and not have him win, I think it's going to be a little disappointing, but I understand why they would do it too.
Yeah. Let's move over to the women's world champion, Jamie Hayter. She's kind of tied up in like a tag feud right now, but she's been having great matches since she's been champion. That's the one thing that they've really started to improve on the women's division as of late. To the point where
just don't powerbomb anybody off of a stage.
Well, yeah. That's true. But aside from that,
yeah.
I think this whole AEW originals versus the outsiders thing is interesting. They did they kind of they rolled with the flow. Saraya wasn't getting the babyface reactions they were expecting her to up against Britt, so that they just quickly turned her and Toni Storm, and it's working.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it livened up Britt. It made, because Britt felt a little stale there for a bit. And I think part of that too was she didn't have a lot of people to work off of that were at her level.
Mm-hmm.
Even the people they brought, Ruby Soho. I think Ruby Soho has been a complete flop. I remember talking to you when they brought her in, that it was like, I don't know that she's going to be as big of a deal as they're hyping it, and I don't think it's worked. I don't think Toni Storm worked as well as they'd hoped when they brought her in. And I think Saraya is the same thing. I think they're finding that just bringing in ex-WWE women isn't solving the problem. that they had, and by now Britt having a little bit of fan support, it makes her character feel more important, and you're getting a different look of the division, at least at the very top, than what we had.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with you on the Tony Storm bit. Just ignore my camera, people. I don't know why it keeps wigging out like that, but it'll pass here shortly. Because I think, especially when she was champion, I thought she had a run of some really good matches, and that led right into, you know, the Jamie taking the title, and Jamie's kind of continued that. So I thought Tony Storm, from an in-ring standpoint, had a really strong run as champion.
Yeah, I meant like the effectiveness of it was never anything that felt like, oh, I needed to see her segments.
I got you.
Is what I meant. And
Gotcha.
that's not to knock her ability or anything. It's just like it didn't connect with me.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it was we've seen Britt play the character she's played for so long, and we'd seen Jamie kind of play the side, the sidekick. And now that they flipped it, it feels fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And the story part of it is caught up to, it's not just so one-sided for me,
right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't think, obviously I don't think we're heading there for Revolution, but you think we're headed to women's blood and guts with this?
I hadn't thought about that, to be honest.
That's
my initial reaction is I hope not.
That's been when this first story first started. I want to say the week that they did the big turn with Saraya and Tony. That's kind of been the talk with people. Is that's what this might be leading to.
Yeah, see, I don't like that, but not because I don't want to see the women in the blood and guts. It's that I don't want to see blood and guts again for another, I'd say 18 months at least. I think when you do matches like that every year, or there's a set like, oh, this is the next blood and guts. It's been 9 months. We got to get the next one ready. I think it loses its impact. Yeah. We talked about it a little bit last week about the Royal Rumble is starting to feel a little like, oh man, another one of these. Like,
right.
WWE runs war games all the time. I mean, there was just one in November. So it loses its uniqueness when it's all the time. And I feel like if they were to do it again here soon, it seems like it's too much too soon. I'd rather see the women find a different sort of specialty match that they could do, a stadium stampede type of thing that's like an AEW creation.
Anarchy
it
in the
wouldn't
arena.
have to be that. Yeah, something like that. So it's where the cage isn't the big gimmick, and it doesn't really feel special because you've seen it a bunch in the last few years.
Right. Yeah, so I guess I really don't have a lot. Do you think we're going to do a Jamie Tony rematch? Is there someone else that you can think of? I mean, Jamie's got an eliminator match against the Bunny that I'm sure Jamie's going to win, so I don't think the Bunny's going to be her challenger.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really see.
I'm sure they'll find an opponent for her. I think at some point they're going to have to address that Jade Cargill is undefeated and been champion, and I think that's, and if you want to just go right into talking about that, like at some point that's going to have to clash, right?
Yeah, I think now that we're at 50, I think we gotta either work toward getting the title off of her, or some sort of, I don't know if you want to unify the titles or not, but yeah, some sort of like you said, clash between her being the TBS champion and the world champion.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a good way to do it Because she's gotten a lot better. She's gotten a lot better, but I still don't think she's ready for prime time, so to speak. I think she'd get eaten alive if she got into a program with like a Britt or Jamie. But also, how many times can you have her just beat Red Velvet and just beat the same people over and over again to Goldberg up that streak?
Yeah.
Before it loses its significance until she starts to beat really top end people. It almost kind of reminds me of back in the day with ECW when RVD was on his mega TV championship run. And I just remember being like, why doesn't he go for the title? If he's so unbeatable, why wouldn't he challenge for the world, the ECW world title? And they never really got to it. And to me, it just doesn't, there's only so much time you can do this undefeated storyline before the rubber kind of needs to hit the road.
Right. Yeah. No, that's
and maybe Double or Nothing is where that happens.
Yeah, maybe. That could be it. The TNT champion, just that title just changed hands last week again. I like that, especially it seems like when the babyface has it, and it makes sense that the more you defend the title, the more likely it is that you're going to lose it quicker.
Yep.
And that's sort of played out throughout the history of the championship. And I really enjoy that. Wasn't really expecting him to drop it back to Joe last week. And now it looks like we're heading for another Joe Wardlow match at the pay-per-view, which, again, I don't know how psyched I am for that, but I'm glad Joe's getting this run and this time to shine as the king of all television.
If they leave the belt on him, I got a bad feeling that Wardlow's going to get the belt back. Yeah. And I think, Joe, they've almost established him again as this killer. They've almost recouped that reputation. And if they do it and let him go on a little, kind of like Miro a couple of years ago, a run where he's just a dominating champion, you could establish him again as a main event threat. And who wouldn't want to see Moxley and Samoa Joe? Hangman and Joe. Give me Bryan and Joe. It's been 15 years since we've seen that match.
Right.
In an environment where those two will be able to go the way they can and should. But they got to let them have the belt for a little longer, I think. I feel like Wardlow's coming in, getting the title. Joe's going to go down to Ring of Honor, help out with their television and all that. And they're going to try to relaunch Wardlow. And I worry that ship has already sailed.
Yeah, that's the kind of crux of the matter there, is because so we've got the first set of ROH tapings coming up towards the end of the month, and then Supercard of Honor during WrestleMania weekend, and Joe is the ROH television champion, so we've got so that's got to be played into it too. What do they do there? Is he going to be more of an ROH guy, or is he sticking around AEW more? So,
right. I mean, my hope is that they use him on both.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
But I assume, and it's I'm probably wrong because we don't know, but I assume he's going to be down and be a big focal point of Ring of Honor, just because of his legacy, his history. What he meant to that company.
They'll need star power on that show too.
Exactly. It wouldn't surprise me if the first 6 months to a year of Ring of Honor is awfully similar to the start of AEW, where like there's just going to be this reliance on some of the big names, the ex-WWE guys, until they can introduce maybe a larger audience some of these the guys that haven't hit the main stage, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. The Acclaimed are defending the tag titles tonight against the Gun Club, or I guess they're just the Guns now. Either way,
The Ass Boys.
the Ass Boys. Yeah,
This is a
go.
Danhausen friendly podcast. The Ass Boys.
So I'm having a hard time with this because this is probably my biggest complaint with AEW is that everything seems to be stuck in neutral for way too long. We saw the beginning of this feud at Blood and Guts last year in person.
Right. That was June.
Yeah. And we're back at it again. And we've already done the Billy turns on the Acclaimed to be with his sons, but then turns on his sons to go back with the Acclaimed. It kind of feels like we're almost like going to start that cycle over.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm
look,
not.
You can tell. Look, I just mentioned Wardlow. I think the Acclaimed are a great example. I think Swerve in Our Glory. You can tell the people that are just getting kind of their first big move up the card and don't know how to push for, okay, but what am I doing next?
Yeah.
Jericho never is out of what he's doing next. The Bucks and Kenny always have something. What's next? It feels like Tony Khan is like, I got this talent. The people are really into him. Let's get him. Let's put the rocket on him. And then they get the rocket going. And then he goes, I don't know what to do next.
Right.
And the Acclaimed are the perfect example, or just another example of this. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know who to put them with to make them continue this success that they're on, get better in the ring, and still tell a decent story. And he's just going back to what's the easiest, I think.
Mm-hmm. It kind of feels like too, like I don't know why it's so, and this isn't a knock on them because I think the Guns are fine, but like it feels like he just needs to get the Guns something to do because it felt like they were in the midst of a feud with FTR, and then FTR decided they wanted to take some time off. And
yeah, so go make another podcast and invade our space.
Yeah. And so then Tony's like, oh, well, now I don't have anything for the Guns to do. We'll just put them back with the Acclaimed instead of like, okay, what's next for my tag champions?
And it's look, the Guns are fine. It's a no-win situation tonight. If the Acclaimed win, again, they just beat the Guns for the 8 millionth time. You put the belt on the Guns. The belt's on the Guns. In that tag division, having those guys as the champions, I think is a misstep. Would be a misstep, especially considering your world champion is kind of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and thankfully, it's not a pay-per-view.
Unless FTR is coming back real soon, and your plan is to put the belts back on FTR when they get back.
Right, but that doesn't sound like a reality. And maybe Dax is working everybody, but he's been pretty adamant about, we're taking some time off. Taking some time off. So
yeah,
we'll see. I think the biggest thing that's missing in the tag division is who I assume we're going to talk about next as the trios champions.
Mm-hmm.
The Bucks are the straw that stirs the drink in the tag division. They have been since they got there.
Mm-hmm.
They're since the company started, and for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Without having that top tier team in the tag division, it just kind of felt flat.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird because it like there was like that moment right before they introduced the trios titles where you looked at it on paper and you like, oh yeah, no problem. They'll be able to support both the tag titles and trios problems, no problem. And now all of a sudden,
FTR's gone.
FTR's gone.
Santana and Ortiz are done.
Mm-hmm.
The Lucha Bros, for whatever reason, just aren't. They lost the best of 7, haven't been on TV since then, and they were tied up in that. Best Friends are in purgatory,
Mm-hmm.
doing this thing with Jarrett and Lethal.
Mm-hmm.
They broke up Swerve in Our Glory. Like, I'm sure I'm missing a team or two in there too.
Well, I mean, and going back to the trio, like, Adam Cole got hurt, Kyle got hurt, Bobby Fish left, so that
Not all
team's
about that.
gone. I thought when Adam came back, they were gonna put him back with the Kingdom, but now Adam's a straight up babyface, so that doesn't look like that's gonna happen.
You're buying that?
Kinda for now.
All
We'll
right.
see. Uh, he seems like that's what he wants to do.
They're gonna
So
make him the new Cody.
yeah,
This was taken away from me.
perfect.
I almost lost it. I want to make everyone. Yeah,
Perfect.
it'd be another one for you. Yeah, exactly.
Um,
But to your point, yeah, it looked like they could support both, and now they're struggling again. Like
mm-hmm.
I thought, maybe the Jericho Appreciation Society would get involved with that. Why do we need 6 guys feuding with Ricky Starks and Action Andrade? Like, it seems like they're. I said Andretti.
Yeah, Andrade, whatever.
But Andrade's another one.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he was going to be involved in all of it, and he's coming going. Like, he's hit or
Yeah,
miss.
he's
so.
hurt. He just had surgery on something, so he's hurt.
But even before that, like,
yeah,
he'd be on the show for a couple weeks and then just disappear.
right,
House of Black. It just
right. Yeah, they have the pieces. They're just not. None of them are in the correct positions right now, so everything just kind of feels stagnant in both divisions.
Right. Like the trios match tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they just do this match like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago?
It was a tag match. It was Top Flight
That's
versus
what it
the
was.
Bucks.
That's right.
So now they've had now it's a trios match.
That's right. And they got the pinfall and yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I swear, you know what? It might have been one of the other trios matches where I watched Top Flight and AR Fox, and I was combining the two.
Yeah.
But I mean, come on, no one expects the elite aren't losing the titles tonight, so
no. So yeah, just kind of bouncing around the rest here. Obviously it looks like we're gonna do another Jericho Starks match. Probably at the pay-per-view. I don't understand why Starks has to run a gauntlet to face Jericho when he's already beaten Jericho.
Look, this is the backwards booking that, going back to a couple years ago when they had the Elite beat the Jericho Appreciation Society at the Stadium Stampede, and then they came back and did what was the point of doing the next match? You already lost. It should have been reversed.
Right. And then it looks like Hangman and Mox again. Is the Elite gonna get in? Because Hangman keeps hinting at mending fences and reconciling. Is it the Elite? Are we going for Elite with Hangman versus the Blackpool Combat Club?
I mean, that could be. That would make the most sense, right?
BCC would have to add another member because with Brian tied up with MJF, it'd be 4-on-3. But I mean, the only other thing would be bringing Dark Order into the mix, and that's. I mean, right now Dark Order might as well be non-existent. So
right. I think the Hangman Elite stuff is going to be post pay-per-view. Brian will be out of the world title picture at that point, and then you'd have your 4-on-4. Part of me also wonders if they're trying to mend these fences with the Elite and Hangman because they have to do something with Punk, and if they figured out a way to get Punk back into the mix, the only way to do it is to have him feud with those guys. FTR's on a break.
Mm-hmm.
Hangman has a beef. Like that could be the other one. That's fantasy booking way out there. I
Yeah.
don't think that's likely, but I think the mending fences is to get the Elite back together for some sort of feud over the summer. And yeah, I think Blackpool could be it. I don't know that it's the best idea, but it's not the worst either.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like that's a lot of top talent tied up in one story that could be used to make the card stronger up and down.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then it sure sounds like Adam Cole's in-ring return is going to be at the pay-per-view. If he is in fact on the babyface side, who's someone that you could see him, someone who's right around his level, but someone who, can get beat because Adam's winning that match, I would assume. So.
Oof. I mean, you kind of caught me off guard. I mean, I'd love to see Miro come back. Like,
yeah, that's I can't understand how they can't I can't understand how they can't figure out something for that guy to do.
Unless he's just being difficult, and that's just speculation. But I don't think that's the case. I think they don't. He's another one. They built him up. They got him to the level. He got hurt, had to drop the title, and now they just don't know what to do. And I don't know why you didn't just pick up right where you left off with the guy.
Right.
But
right, yeah. He showed back up and was part of that. He teamed with Sting and Darby at All Out against the House of Black, right. And then he was gone again.
Yeah, this makes no sense.
At least have him do the promos.
Yeah, keep him fresh in people's mind. Have him come out every couple of weeks and stomp somebody real quick, and
give me 2 minutes of Miro yelling at God every week.
Right.
So,
I mean, if it's going to be at the pay-per-view, obviously it's not going to be like Guevara or Daniel Garcia, and I don't know that Daniel Garcia is on Cole's level. I think Guevara is kind of there. Yeah, I don't really. They might end up doing something with him and like Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, because I feel like the promos there would be, because they seem committed to putting Jarrett on TV every week. So
I'm for it.
Yeah, whatever.
I love me some Jeff Jarrett. Can't lie.
God, I don't understand how I can talk wrestling with you sometimes.
He pops me. I can't help it.
You are like the only one.
No, I'm not the only one.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'm going to assume that they do the Face of the Revolution ladder match again, and I'm guessing that Will Hobbs wins that.
Maybe. A name that just came to mind, he's kind of a tweener. Eddie Kingston and Cole could be really good too. They need to do something. I mean, Eddie's another one. He was as hot as anybody they had at Blood and Guts last summer, and he got the big win, and then nothing.
Yeah, Well, he and Guevara had that backstage altercation, and ever since then, It just seems like they've kind of not really had anything for him.
Yeah.
They just I guess they just split him and Ortiz up, and I don't get it. So basically what we're saying is, if you're just interested in watching awesome matches, turn into AEW each and every week.
Right. Well, and I think that's the frustrating part is they can do really good storytelling, and to their credit, I think right now there's 2 or 3 things that are somewhat interesting, but there's a lot of plot holes and a lot of start stopping. If you're a diehard fan of some of these guys and gals, and one week they're on TV and then they're gone for the next 3 or 4, it's really hard to stay invested. But every week Jericho gets his entrance and his promo time and his his 10 to 12 minutes, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Right.
you said, that's fine if he's trying to get to Ricky, but the fact that he's making Ricky go through all these other guys to get to him, it makes no sense.
No, it should be the other way around, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, they've some of the finer points they struggle with, but
And I think too, this is partially a symptom of what happened last fall. There was obviously, I mean, we don't know the specifics, but it's been out there that Punk and MJF were going to be pretty entwined together. The trios titles were going to be handled completely differently.
right. I mean, I just see
It,
that part, like the Punk MJF, because that I think that part they were like they navigated because they just subbed Punk for Mox, and the same thing, like they got to the same result at the same time they were going to. So,
but I think long term, I don't think it was just going to be done at full year. It was supposed to be the continuation of the story from earlier, but it
well,
also
then again,
the elite.
that's the same. That's one of the other same issues. Is then you're extending that feud out close to a year, pretty much, and it's like, does that really need to happen?
Yeah, I mean, in that case, I think yes.
Yeah.
I look. I know you think I'm the ultimate Punk slappy.
Yeah.
But you can't tell me that the story that those two told from start to finish the first time wasn't good enough to warrant continuation, especially if they were going to do the double turn that it looked like they were going to do.
Oh yeah.
But it also, like, that whole incident, it tied up the Elite, so they couldn't get moving the way they wanted. Hangman took some blowback from it.
Yeah. Then he got hurt, so
he got hurt. And then you mentioned Sammy and Eddie had a fight like right after that, so there was a lot of tension and chaos in the locker room. I think they've navigated it well enough. This Revolution is this is the perfect time for them to have maybe a downer pay-per-view like this, because I don't think the buzz for WrestleMania has been as hot in recent years as it is right now. Look, WWE is on fire. You can't. I'm a hater, and I can't ignore like how great they're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if AEW is kind of on a dip and going to have maybe a little downer in terms of a pay-per-view and storytelling, this is probably the best time for it anyway, because it's not like they're going to beat what's going on Friday nights right now.
Right. All right. Is there anything else, AEW or otherwise?
AEW wise, no. I think the big news that I've seen this week on WWE is the reaction to the Heyman Cody promo on Monday.
Did you watch it?
I did.
That was pretty good television, if I must say so myself.
It was solid. Look, Paul Heyman is an MVP. He's untouchable.
Yeah.
In that ring.
The way and again, like, the beauty of him is you don't know, but the way he was able, like, I really thought he was getting emotional, like when Cody was telling the story of Paul, helping Dusty out when
saving his bum ass father. Yeah.
So,
ooh. The reason I say the promo was good to me and not great is two things. The very end, when Cody gets in his face and is like, you just made it personal, and I'm going to personally take the titles from Roman at WrestleMania, the start of his promo was all about how it looks like Sami Zayn is going to be. And I understand he's trying to build Sami up and say, like, I'm rooting for you. Like, I'm a good guy. I'm the White Knight. Like, I don't want you not to win. And then you wrapped it like that. It's like, well, then what was the point of the it's a plot hole.
It is, but I can also trying to put myself, which is dangerous, but trying to put myself in that situation, I could see when you're ramped up like that and like,
Sure.
you know, in that moment, all he was thinking about was Roman.
Sure.
And so I can see why he would say that and not, you know, include, you know, Sammy there at the
right.
end.
And as I was watching the promo, I thought, man, this would have been a really great night after Elimination Chamber when Roman hypothetically is going to have nuclear heat on him.
Mm-hmm.
I think the surprise of Cody's out to talk and he's, you know, it's clear who my opponent is at WrestleMania. And then Paul goes, ladies and gentlemen,
mm-hmm.
nuclear heat, that real it would have been a little better. The other thing I didn't like about it is, and it's one of the things that I've always disliked about Cody, is he talks a lot about how like he didn't want to be handed anything because he was Dusty's son and stuff like that. But man, does he love to lean on his father's name and accomplishments when he's trying to get over stuff, and it didn't work for me in that aspect.
He loves his dad.
Yeah, that's fine, but the whole bit about, you know, Dusty didn't want you to live off of his name and he wanted you to go be Cody. That's all well and good, but literally he stole his nickname because he wanted to be tied to his dad's legacy. Like, it's just it's say one thing, do another.
It's trying to walk a fine line of not like being a Dusty clone, but also, you know, paying what he perceives as the proper respect to Dusty's legacy.
Sure.
Going forward. But
sure.
I can see what I would have preferred if my tweak would have been to just, I don't know if you get rid of that last bit altogether, because I think Cody's the reason why I think Cody should be the, you know, go and defeat Roman is because I think he should be the one person who doesn't make it get personal, because that's how Roman's beaten pretty much everyone he's faced, is he's gaslit all his opponents and made it personal.
Right.
And I thought Cody should have been the person who just focused solely on the task of winning the titles.
Right. But that's why the wise man is the wise man.
Yeah.
Is he knows how to manipulate.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
look, it was really well done. It really, I mean, it gives people a backstory, at least to part of it. I think the link between Heyman and Cody is a little weak for a main event WrestleMania match without having like a Cody Roman direct tie-in. But to your point, if they're not making it personal,
yeah, and they'll get to the Cody Roman stuff after Chamber. I think this was a good starting point to start planting the seeds heading towards WrestleMania, because you do got to start simultaneously while you're finishing up the Sammy, this part of the Sammy arc. You also simultaneously have to start building to WrestleMania.
What do you think about the idea that it is being floated around about a triple threat for the title, so that you avoid? Because look, we talked about it last week. What happens when Sammy gets beat in Montreal and the fans reject Cody, not because they hate Cody, but because they really want Sami Zayn, and they start to make Cody look like, oh, we can't do this, because if Sammy's not in the match, people are going to be furious.
I still don't think the vast majority of people are, especially if I got to wait and see how the Chamber ends. But in my head, Sammy loses, whether he gets screwed or whatever. Sammy ends up losing. There's a post-match beatdown between, with Roman and Solo. And it sounds like, Jimmy obviously can't make it, but it sounds like Jay might be able to go to the chamber. You have him make his choice to stick with his family, and that's like that transfers the heat off Roman and back onto Jay and the Usos. And as they're doing a 3-on-1 beatdown, out comes Owens, who we haven't seen since the Rumble, to make the save. Those two hugging in the middle of the ring in Montreal to end that show.
Sure. But again, to my point, what happens 2 weeks after that on Monday Night Raw when Cody comes out and the fan, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but then what do you do if like we saw with Batista and we've seen in the past where they just refuse to go with what the fans clearly want and they start booing the guy who didn't do anything wrong, who gets a good pop on his own, but he's not the guy that they want to see in that match. I think when he looked into the camera Monday, Cody that is, and said, "May the best man win," I wonder if they're setting it up where possibly Sammy gets screwed and they say, no, Sammy still deserves his shot. He's going to wrestle Roman on night 1 of WrestleMania or whatever. And Cody can say, I'm okay with that because the best man didn't win that match. You can make Cody still be the white meat babyface. It's like I didn't care who won. Sammy got screwed. He still deserves his shot. I'm not worried about there being another person in there. I'm the American Nightmare. I'm going to finish the story no matter who's in my way. They could even do it on night 1. Sammy can lose. And then on night 2, you can do Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and give him.
But see, then you're using too many guys both nights. You're using up too many spots on those few guys both nights.
Look, they're on the precipice of this being the best story they've ever told. You give them all the time they freaking need to finish the story.
I guess if it comes to that, then they'll have to. I just think it's a lot of fear mongering for no reason. I think it's a bunch of people yelling into an echo chamber on Twitter for no reason. Like, I don't think they're gonna have that problem. I really don't. Yeah, I just don't.
I hope for my sake you're wrong.
I know. I like if you want to do the night 1, night 2 thing, then sure, I guess. I don't think they should make it a triple threat because then Cody has to pin Roman. He can't win those titles by pinning Sammy. Whoever went, they have to pin Roman. It has, that's the way this has to end, is whoever it is needs to pin Roman. And plus, look, yeah, they could, but look at the history. Look at 2014. Yeah, sure. They gave the people what they wanted. They put Daniel Bryan in that match and he won the titles at WrestleMania. Probably the right call. And then what? And then they put him in a feud with Kane, and then he got hurt, and we know what happened next. Look at Kofi. Kofi Mania happened, and they gave him the title match at WrestleMania, and he won, and it was one of the greatest moments in WrestleMania history. And then what? He had a feud with Dolph Ziggler. He didn't really do anything of note as with his time as champion, and then he ended up losing to Brock Lesnar in 8 seconds.
I mean, my counter to that is a few years ago, Seth Rollins was the returning hero that was going to dethrone Brock Lesnar. And then he dethroned Brock Lesnar. And then what? They fed him. They feuded him with Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans, right?
Right.
It has more to do with the fact that they don't know how to keep the momentum going on these title wins for baby faces.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem in wrestling in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a WWE thing. I think no matter what happens, if Cody wins, what's next?
I mean, yeah, I don't have an answer for you, so, but I guess I especially this current regime, I trust them to have a plan going forward more so.
I mean,
than
they could even turn it into a 3-way elimination match. Like Punk had suggested at 2019 when Cena and Rock, and people were like, why isn't Punk in this match? Put Sammy in the match, let him hang around for a couple minutes, Roman spears him, puts it to bed, over and done with. Sammy has been beaten by the tribal chief, and then the next night he does this thing with Kevin to get his revenge, and then Cody can get his big win on Roman.
I guess we'll see. So, all right. Well, SummerSlam in Detroit.
Oh yeah, we forgot about that too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm pumped.
I have a wedding that day.
Awesome.
Yep. That's going to be a conversation though.
Yeah.
That I don't want to miss this either as a fan or if professionally I'm able to make it work.
Yeah. No, yeah, I'm the same. I told because that's typically a weekend we would have one of Kingston's birthday parties.
Right.
And I'm like, all right, well, we're going to have to figure something out because it's crazy that we haven't gotten a big four pay-per-view in 14 years.
Well, I mean, Detroit in general doesn't get treated very well by wrestling companies. It just,
well, I would disagree with that. Like, WWE is here a lot, and it typically Detroit would typically get one of the biggest house shows of the year on that after Christmas loop. It used to be like MSG in Detroit and Toronto. Like they used to. I just don't know why, and maybe it's calendar's not lining up or what. But it bugs it just boggles my mind that of everywhere else that it's taken. Royal Rumble 2009 is the last time we got a big four.
Yep.
So
I mean, look, 12,000 people went into Little Caesars Arena for AEW Blood and Guts in June. They haven't been back since, but they can't sell 4,000 tickets in whatever small town in West Virginia they're in next week. Or
right.
You hear all the time about how ticket sales aren't as great in AEW. Maybe because you go to the same 7 places all the time. Come to an area where you've been once and we'll fill the venue.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you didn't sell out in Grand Rapids, but you brought a crappy Battle of the Belts card to the west side of the state on a Friday night.
Yeah.
But to your point, yeah, every time they bring big events here, we fill the buildings, and then they just disappear. They don't come back.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it's Ford Field too, so it's going to be a massive. It'll be the massive stage, and it'll have that stadium feel. So it'll be really, really exciting downtown. But funny enough, Madonna's comeback concert is the same night,
and
right down
the
street.
game. There's a Tigers game that night too. It's gonna be.
Wait, that might be the Yankees are in town.
No, it's Tampa.
It's Tampa. The Yankees are in town in August. So.
Yeah, no, it's the Rays. It'll be. The good thing is that there's, as far as parking goes, there's there doesn't seem to be a shortage of it in that. I don't know if there's enough for 3 huge events like that, but usually it's not too bad, especially if you get it early, like I like to do.
Wow. I mean, the district Detroit is one giant parking lot. You can thank the Illich family for that.
Yeah, that too. But where it's going to be, getting something to eat downtown, beforehand is where the issue is gonna arise for folks. But
well, the nice thing is too that the night before we might get Ric Flair's 2nd, 3rd, 4th retirement match again. He's already talking about
Kurt Angle
wanting to do another one.
I mean, who knows who it could be?
So yeah, some retirement match in Detroit.
Yeah. So no, I'm excited. I'm hoping, they bring the whole shebang, because when they did WrestleMania, we kind of got screwed on that front. I'm hoping
Yep.
that, the Superstore and all that kind of stuff. I hope we get all that.
Are they so for the big four, are they still doing like pay-per-view and then Raw in the town, or are they moving it since it's a Saturday Monday
They've
thing?
been moving it. I think more likely and it depends with what kind of what the deal is with the Madonna tour, as far as how many days they have the arena for. But I could see them doing SmackDown on Friday,
Yeah.
because that's what they're doing for the Chamber. They're doing SmackDown,
Right.
SmackDown in Montreal, and then the Chamber in Montreal.
Yeah. So Friday night SmackDown,
I could
Saturday
see them.
pay-per-view.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
could see them doing SmackDown, or at the very least, like Toledo or something.
Meh.
So, but no, yeah, I'm excited about that. Hopefully, we see a lot of you people there. So, all right, let's get out of here, Matt.
Yeah, it's been we said we were only going to do half an hour.
I know, in the last few,
thing.
literally the only one that did that was the one where we said we were only going to do a half hour. Everything else has been like 45 minutes to an hour. So
Yeah, well, I mean, when they make the shows interesting, or we have a lot to talk about,
it's going to happen. So,
yeah.
All right, well, we'll be back next week talking about heading into the Chamber and whatever else comes across the wrestling wire here in the next week or so. So until then, boys and girls, see ya.